Hello and welcome to The Game, football podcast from The Times and Sunday Times. A 93rd minute winner, a 98th minute wonder save, and then a VAR farce which took us well past 100 minutes. It was a thrilling finish to Liverpool 1, Manchester City 2, as Pep Guardiola's side made sure the title race goes on. On today's show, we'll discuss that match, another win for Manchester United, more madness from Christian Romero, ask whether Eddie Howe and Fabian Hurzeler should be under pressure, and look at the tight relegation battle too. I'm Tom Clarke, and joining me today we have the senior sports writer and Sunday Times columnist Alyson Rudd, the football reporter who covers clubs in the south of England with a focus on Tottenham, it's Tom Allnutt, and the former footballer turned journalist Gregor Robertson is here as usual. Team Monday morning, another magic weekend of football. How are we all feeling?
Feeling good.
Gregor is not feeling good. He's upset. How do you want to approach this, mate? Because like therapy, should we talk about football first, or do you want to get it out of the way?
Let's talk about revolution.
Revolution.
Yeah, let's do that.
He was intimidating me a bit before the podcast came on.
Yeah.
Before we started, he was sort of getting in my grill a bit.
He was
saying,
revved. He's revved, isn't he?
I think a tide is turning. I do.
And you think you're going to lead the charge,
I'm not saying that, I think there'll be a few of us.
Yeah. And just to be clear, this revolution is death to VAR.
Isn't that the plot of Les Miserables, death to VAR? I think so.
Yeah, potentially. I could see Gregor in a musical, actually. Anyway, just to be clear, this is the farce at the end for Anfield. Goal scored, decision comes back, denying a goal-scoring opportunity, even though it was a goal. Remarkable scenes. You can tell, Tom, we talked about this before we hit record, I knew Gregor was really upset because he started tweeting about it. Never a good sign when Grandad is on the couch at home and getting angry. But this does encapsulate your main frustration with it, doesn't it? That it's taken the game somewhere that it was never meant to be.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not. Actually, my main takeaway is that football's capacity for producing an endless supply of the most polarizing incidents and unimaginable incidents is remarkable. I don't know how you couldn't have made this up. And but it was just a brilliant moment. It was a magnificent moment of the season. It was hilarious. It was like slapstick stuff.
Yeah.
But it was wild and it was thrilling. And
it's quite symbolic as well, like Haaland running away, Liverpool behind him, you know.
And those are the moments where, as if you're watching at home on TV, your heart starts to beat a little bit faster and you're like, and then you're getting used now to that being replaced with a sinking feeling in your chest because you know that this monstrosity is going to decimate that moment and make us talk like this about it instead of what a great end to the game that was. We'll probably fleetingly talk about Szoboszlai's free kick and the rest of the stuff that went on. You mentioned it in the intro there, but the first thing we're talking about is VAR, and that's the disgrace. It is. And for me, as I say, this moment, because it was so unusual and peculiar and unimaginable, it's actually not the most, and it followed the letter of the law, like the decision did. It's not the most egregious sort of incident by any means.
Would you have been just as cross had the referee made all those decisions as opposed to VAR making those decisions? If the referee had decided to send off Szoboszlai and give a free kick instead of letting the goal stand, would you have been just as cross? You wouldn't, would you?
No. That says a lot as well.
So what you're saying is what you love is referees getting also caught up in the moment and maybe making technical mistakes, but everyone knowing it doesn't really matter.
Yes.
Right.
Also, it's for the good of the entertainment, isn't it? I think, Martin Samuel's written about it on the Times website and sums it up well with his final paragraph. So everything was right except nothing was right. Nothing was wrong except everything was wrong. And it all went off completely as it should, except everybody wished that it hadn't. And it sent 60,000 people home unhappy, which is the other thing.
That's not true, though. I mean, there are people, Tom and I were talking about this before, there are people who think this was the right decision.
I think we all think it's the right decision.
No, but people are happy with the decision.
Go on,
there
Tom.
are people who are happy with the decision.
But I think it was the right decision, though. I personally think there are loads of arguments against VAR, and it has many, many flaws. But I think one of the weakest arguments is to say that it shouldn't deliver the right decision in the name of entertainment. Because ultimately, let the game deliver those entertaining moments anyway. We don't need to kind of cancel things or get to the wrong decision to make it more fun. Ultimately, this was a goal. We're talking about goals, which is, if we want the line to be high for where VAR intervenes, in terms of goals, red cards, penalties. This wasn't one of those areas where you think, it's just VAR can't really rule on this because it's too difficult to get to a decision. It was a goal, and it's an important thing. Like it might not feel an important thing.
But to use Alyson's questioning, would you, if the goal had stood, would you have been sat here going, they should have pulled that back? Would you have been equally as angry as Gregor is about the reverse? So if the ball trickles into the net, we're all going, oh, that's crazy. And then people are saying, oh, it's probably a foul, wasn't it? But don't. You would have been like, no, actually, we should have. I'm quite upset about that.
I think if the referee had come to the decision himself, I think I would have been like, yeah, that's annoying. It's a shame. It's not the right. Of course, you want the climax to the match, but it's the right call. Like, and what are we saying here? We want the game just to be more entertaining, but we don't really care. I mean, that's a slightly weird precedent to set, where you think actually just the rules don't matter, and the most important thing is that the entertainment is the highest point.
No, I'm going further than that. I'm saying that VAR has actually illuminated that the written word and language cannot communicate the spirit of the laws of the game. Like it's not possible. And I think it's taken VAR for us to realise that. It's like the laws of the game can't bear the scrutiny that VAR has given it now.
But that's not the case in this case, though, is it? Because it was a clear foul. Like, I'm not looking at the replay and thinking, is that a foul? I don't know. Why is VAR getting involved? It's a clear foul.
Yeah, but the outcome, everyone, even people who think that it should have been, that the referee, the VAR and referee did the right thing, everyone would accept that the outcome was correct.
Well, the outcome was a goal. That's the other point. He's sent off for denying a goal-scoring opportunity, and it was a goal.
We know that Haaland...
that's the amazing bit of the wording.
We know that Haaland was winning the race until he was pulled back. We know that Haaland fouled him after he'd already been fouled. But we know that the outcome would have been a goal, like barring something ridiculous. So, like that's all I'm saying. I think when you talk about the feel of the game, it's about what you feel is right and wrong, and that's what Martin's talking about. And the right outcome was arrived at without the need for any intervention. That's the point. Like, no, and that's so often the case.
This is so ironic because the main one of the main problems with VAR is you go. It's not magic, and it goes to a human being or a couple of them, and they make a subjective call on lots of issues, and you think, well, they're reviewing it, but why do we agree with them? They seem to have got it wrong, or just they're not on the field of play. Why are they asking two random geezers in a booth to do this? Whereas in this instance, this is actually the most non-subjective decision we've had because it's got nothing to do with...
And it still doesn't feel right.
So maybe this is a critical... A lot of the discussion has been, you can't go back. We've got VAR now. All we can do is move forward and make it better. It seems to me this is a critical point at which we're saying... Maybe this is the minute we decide we just don't want VAR at all.
There was Craig Pawson's face as well. You could see he was like,
he tried to relay the incident.
I absolutely hate this. I just want this to finish. Because we were all on the editing floor being like, the game's still happening. How many more minutes is this going to be? Like you could tell he just was like, this is horrendous. I just want this to go away. But I have to apply these laws. And these rules.
The weird thing about it is that the second foul doesn't happen if it's not the first foul, right? Like that's the kind of flaw in the thing, is that Haaland doesn't make the second foul if it's not for Szoboszlai pulling him back. So the idea that you sort of penalise both is slightly flawed, isn't it? Because ultimately, if they're both running free, Haaland scores the goal. But you're asking I agree with that. That is slightly flawed. But you can't ask the referee to guess. Like even if it's more exciting that he guesses, you can't. The rules have to be there, Gregor, don't they? You can't just say, I want the most exciting thing all the time, because there will be incidents where it's the less exciting thing. So you have to apply the rule.
But can the referee not be watching that and going, the ball's going in here, they're pulling each other, he's pulled his shirt, the ball's going in, leave it.
And most importantly, Dominic Szoboszlai was the first one to commit the foul.
Yeah.
Okay, but where does that end? So, for example, like with Salah's thing with Mark Gahey, for example, where does that end? Do you say, okay, Salah's going to go through there, and we know that, take Slot's argument, Salah scores that goal like 9 times out of 10 for Liverpool over the last 10 years. Therefore, we give Liverpool the goal? Like, where do you end that point where the referee's guessing where the projection carries forward?
We'll give it when the ball is crossed the line and it's in the net.
But this was the ball was going into the ball was going into an open goal, though. Like with the Salah one, he's got to actually get through, have the shot, score past Donnarumma. This one, the referee, Pawson is surely watching this going, this is going in. I'm just going to leave it. This is going in. And then he's like, oh, God, I forgot about VAR. Oh, crikey. Anyway, but I think we are in a bit of a both things can be true in terms of what Tom and Gregor are saying here. But just coming back to your point about a revolution, you feel like, all jokes aside, you feel like there's a tide turning here. You said it a couple of weeks ago against VAR.
Yeah, I don't know whether you know, I'm also getting a bit tired of people saying, you know, it's never gonna, you know, we're never gonna scrap VR. We're never gonna, you know, throw it in the bin. Everyone, even if people say they want that, like, there comes a point where, like, what have we done? Like, what have we done to the game? What have we allowed to happen? And we've not actually allowed it to happen. There was no consultation. There was no. It just happened. Gianni Infantino came like got the top job at FIFA, and very quickly we had VAR for the World Cup in 2018, I think it was. Like, it just happened so quickly without any sort of. There's been so many unforeseen circumstances, and they are unforeseen. Like, but there was no trial. There was no. It all happened far too quickly, and the damage that's been done, I think, is enormous. Like, to the spectacle and to the feeling of the game. And as I say, that feeling in your chest being replaced with a sinking feeling, like a sadness instead of joy. Like, that's what I get now watching some of these games. And like, the main things for me are like handball, fouls, and offside have not only just been complicated, like enormously, but they've also just multiplied the opportunity for human error to decide all those things. So, like, it's not just about coming to the right decision. It's actually giving us more opportunities to make the wrong decision. And that is bizarre. It's absurd. Like, when you just look at that on its own and you think, what are we actually what's the value of VAR? It's to correct howlers. And how often have we seen them? And how often are they corrected? They're not that frequent. And this damage has been done at the same time. For me, it's nowhere near worth it.
I mean, more broadly, I 100% agree with Gregor more broadly. And I, you know, it's amazing to think, well, we're now in the 7th season of VAR in the Premier League. This is going to be this summer the 3rd World Cup, you know. And I think in the first year or two, everyone was sort of thinking, well, this is just teething problems. It's going to get better. I mean, arguably, it's got worse.
We'll talk about it forever. We'll talk about it forever. We'll always be saying, this is the thing that we need to tweak. But just stop it. Stop talking about tweaking it. Stop talking about clear and obvious. Stop talking about time limits. Stop talking about cricket-style challenge systems. None of it will work.
Well, let's talk about some joy in actual football in a minute. But just before I put the play out to join Gregor Robertson's, you know, cultural revolution in football, Alyson, scrap it or get rid of it. Scrap it or keep it.
I've always wanted it gone. I never believed in it as a philosophical concept at the first point of it.
You have always been against it. Tom, overall, you were saying you agree with Gregor. Would you keep it or get rid?
I'd pull it right back. I don't think full abolition, but I think I'd pull it right back.
Yeah, listeners, get in touch with me, tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. Let's get back to joy. What was more joyous? Dominic Szoboszlai's free kick or Donnarumma's save and the subsequent impression by Pep Guardiola on the touchline, jumping up with his grin? Both absolutely fantastic. Szoboszlai's free kick is one of the best free kicks I've ever seen, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. It's one of those whether you're in the ground or at home going, bloody hell, how's he done that?
And yet you sort of knew he would,
yes,
because he's done it before.
Yeah.
And I think that heightens the enjoyment when you know someone's quite likely to do something amazing.
The real joy of it, though, was that I thought he's going to bend this in the top corner. I don't know if you saw Joe Hart's analysis on Match of the Day. He talked about he could have gone round O'Reilly and into the top corner.
Interesting,
I was like, oh, that's what I thought he might do. I was like, Szoboszlai could score these. I didn't think he'd ping it with the outside of his foot round the other way.
It was like one of those snooker shots, wasn't it? Where they sort of like, you have to put some swaz on the ball to kind of make it go the other way. And it kind of goes in between things. And I mean, just to find that snaking path, like in the middle, through the wall. And I know people are talking about the wall, but I mean, we saw with David Raya that he can go over it. So I mean, it didn't. You know, and with that free kick, people were talking about maybe it'd be better if Raya didn't have the wall in the way. And I mean, he's a genius at moving that ball.
What a player as well. I mean, he's having a remarkable season, playing out of position most of the time, and he
could make the team of the season in 2 positions.
You'd like that, would you?
That would be. I think that should happen.
That'd be fun. VAR wouldn't let it happen though.
By the way, I definitely said that 2 weeks ago on the podcast, but you know, it's never mind. Anyway,
I was wondering, just with those free kicks, is it better when the goalkeeper stands still and makes it look like it's completely unstoppable?
It is.
Or is it better to have a goalkeeper trying to get there with his hand and can't get it? What's the more
I think there's a little bit
effect?
of. Do you think there's a bit of goalkeeping PR to standing still?
I think it's slightly performative, actually.
The bemusement, as if to say there was nothing I could do about that.
Yeah.
You know, because if you dive, you're like, oh, I went a bit late then. Oh, crap, you know, I should have gone for it. And, you know, as a keeper, you're like, fair enough, that's
It's
amazing.
like in tennis, isn't it, when someone hits an ace and they don't even bother to try and get it? It's just like, too good. And they just walk to the other side.
Yeah, that adds to it.
It's that kind of...
You add to the shock, It's like,
Did you see the slow-mo of Szoboszlai's foot post striking
Yes,
ball.
goes straight through.
But then his foot does a sort of a wobble, like a stream flowing.
Yeah.
It's like he's got limbs that no one else has got.
Well, Donnarumma definitely did show his limbs as well with that save. What an amazing save! This was also a great match for watching other players' reactions to things, because you had like the reactions to Szoboszlai's goal with Van Dijk and everyone going, "What on earth is going on here?" And then you had the same with Donnarumma, with a lot of Liverpool players. Oh, bollocks! How's he got that one? That is so annoying. I mean, we've had a lot of chat about Donnarumma at the start of the season. Actually, been a really good signing for City, hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's not just those moments, like those clutch moments. It's also kind of his command of the box and stuff. When you're throwing, box crosses flying into the box, he comes out and punches everything. And yeah, he has been. There was all the talk about what's he going to be like with his feet, and it's kind of, I don't know, something about the way the football's evolved this season's made that less important. And he has been huge for them.
He's a great personality as well. You can tell that he's important. I don't know that he's that much older necessarily, but he acts like he is, and he's seen it all, and he's really bought into it. And when things aren't, I mean, they've had lots of blips this season, City, and he's the one that gets them going again. He's been a good addition in terms of his experience and just his aura on the pitch, I think.
It's a weird one there because he was an opportunity signing. Like, back in August, he helped PSG win the Champions League, and then suddenly Luis Enrique sort of decided, he's being, not signing a new contract, let's move it on. And everyone, suddenly City were like, this is a good opportunity, let's sign him. Otherwise, City wouldn't have him.
Yeah.
And it's strange to think that a guy who really could be a real protagonist in the title race now and looks like probably the kind of 2 or 3 biggest players for City, really only arrived because it kind of just happened.
Yeah, absolutely. A massive signing for City. And Gregor, talking about another massive signing for City, Mark Gray, what a performance from him. As much as Arne Slot thinks he should have been sent off for pulling back Mo Salah, I think he's a little toppy on that. Anyone? Alyson? Orange card?
It was not a clear goal scoring.
Thank you very much. There we go. That's all we needed. But Gray's performance and Kusanov next to him as well, I think looked like a potential good future pairing, Gregor. You've had your doubts about City's defence all season, and rightly so. But it looks a little bit more.
At the start, in fairness, there were a few hairy moments. There was a moment where I think it was Gay kind of tried a switch across the box and nearly kicked out for a goal kick. And I don't know, these are still big games for these guys to, despite everything that particularly Gay has done. It's a big game. It's like probably the marquee game now in the Premier League. And but yeah, Guardiola talks about him having a big personality, and he has got that, hasn't he? He just exudes calm. And Kusanov's like just an extraordinary athlete. Like I hope he grows, because what a traumatic start he had to life in a City shirt, and it was a bit of a sickener when he got that blow as well from Donnarumma. But he wanted to play on. You could see that.
Yeah.
And
Pep was funny on the touchline with that as well. He's going, you're done. You're done. You're done.
Yeah.
In his usual non-subtle Pep Guardiola way. In terms of the game as well, talking about big game players, Erling Haaland, for 60 minutes you're like, Erling Haaland's not in this game, and then that assist, the like dart run and the flicked header is just a elite footballer. You will not keep me out of the big game.
There is an art. Surely there must be now a new thing in football that we didn't used to have. I don't think, not when I was growing up. That the art of being not involved and not having many touches, but it's a bit like goalkeepers who only have one save to make. Maybe it's a bit like that. But being an outfield player who is just not involved, you're not touching the ball. How do you maintain that self-belief that when that moment comes that you're going to get the flick on, or you're going to get the goal, or you're going to make that contribution and be as sharp as you can be when you're just not involved at all? And it happens a lot, and we'll talk about Yokerus. It's someone like him. You look at his heat map and his touch map, and they're not. It's not like they're involved but not contributing. But you can say, there's a lot of work going on off the ball and the odd interception, and they look. You see them. You visually see them involved in the game, even if they're not getting an assist or a goal. Players like Haaland, they just look. He just looks like he's lumbering around slightly in a different dimension to everybody else. It's just not working for him. And yet, they're so well coached, and presumably they talk a lot to their coaching staff about that role of not being involved, but being able to switch it on at the crucial second.
Yeah, he's kind of unique in that, though, still, to the extent to which he does nothing and then comes to life. There is also some part of it's just like football's mad again. Like it was a deflected cross into the box that he's just kind of on the move and managed to get to first. And was that like a big moment from a big game player? I'm not sure. It was just like a deflected cross into the box, and he's a big guy and he flicked it in.
I'm not having that.
I think
he has a great header.
Silva's a big game player and someone who's like just throughout the game, and he made that run. He anticipated it. I would actually say Silva was more of the big game player in this game.
I think the skill to move back though, to be
The little dart
in
run.
that direction,
That's what I meant. Just the little
and then
dart
actually
run.
to cushion that header with the weight to make sure it's not heavy enough the keeper can get it, and to have the exact right angle. It was like a number 10 playing a reverse through ball, but he's doing it in the air. I don't think there's many centre forwards in the league who could do that. Honestly,
In terms of City overall, then this game, as you say, Greg, it was an odd game for a lot. It was the periods in the first half where we're going, this is great fun, and then I was actually, this is a bit crap. Actually, this is a bit messy and a bit scrappy. Bit panics in the office as ever when you've pinned everything on a big game and it's 0-0 with 60 minutes. You're like, oh crikey, how do we sell this one? Thankfully, the end delivered, but. Are we getting a bit swept up with City still in the title race, 93rd minute? Because Liverpool could have won this game. Liverpool were on top for large periods, I thought. What do we think about the overall state of this game and what it says for the rest of the season?
I think it's interesting the way City approach this as well. And Semenyo and Nico Riley kind of, although they're nominally wide players, just drift into the pockets. And it's like they found a new way of flooding the middle of the pitch now. Obviously, the full-backs offer the width. They come inside. You got Silva, Semenyo, O'Reilly, Rodri backing it up. Marmoush kind of floats. So, they managed to get in lots of situations where it was those little pockets in front of Liverpool's back four, but never really. There was one little through ball for Haaland that was kind of thwarted by Alyson. Just that final bit, they're still not really open. There's a lot of good play and a lot of sort of tippy-tappy player in the box, but not really managing to find a breakthrough. So, or to get Haaland into the game that much. So, City looked really good in spells. They're still not really that cutting edge. I see a lot of the time, unless Semenyo or someone's going to do something like a one-off moment. And Liverpool came back into the game strongly in the second half. And you're right, they could have won the game. Yeah.
And it also
without that
probably should have been 1-1 without a bit of a rush of blood from Alyson.
Yeah.
For the penalty. Yeah. So
it was interesting afterwards, Bernardo Silva, wasn't it, saying that we felt if we lost this one, the title race was done. That he felt that 9 points would be too much to claw back. I still think Arsenal in a really commanding position, but I think you get to this situation in the league where it almost becomes round by round, and City won this round, going away to Liverpool and winning, Arsenal winning at home to Sunderland. They won this round, and you've got to start. City have probably got to win, 3 or 4 more rounds, haven't they, to basically put the heat really on. And I mean, this week now they're going home against Fulham on Wednesday. They play before Arsenal go away to Brentford, and suddenly those little intricacies of the timing of the schedule, it all matters. If they can reduce it to 3 points, and Arsenal have got to go to Brentford, and then Arsenal got to go to Spurs at the weekend, just suddenly there's a little bit more friction than there was before.
Alyson.
Alyson doesn't know like she's convinced.
No. I would not write City off at all. I mean, Pep Guardiola's reaction to suggestions that the title race might be close to being over show that he's got the hunger for it, I think. 6 points is nothing, actually, when you're talking about a team that knows how to win it, and you're talking about a team that doesn't know how to win it. So,
not sure they could call us a team that knows how to win it anymore.
City.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't believe in the innate character of a club?
No, it's the players on the pitch, and there's only a few of them left.
Very interesting. Well, let's bring in Arsenal. As Tom said, 3-0 win against Sunderland, fairly straightforward. I wanted to just mention Victor Yokerus, criticised by basically every pundit and journalist going so far for his performances this season, but 6 goals in the last 8 games. That takes him to 13 in 36 in all competitions this season. Is this just a bit of good rotation now for Arteta, now that he's got Havertz and Jesus back as well? Is Yokerus starting to find his feet? What do we think this is? Or am I getting carried away again? Gregor's not having it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think he's coming on when games are a bit more open, perhaps. And his first goal was pretty scruffy. It's the kind of one you've seen him, hit wide before, or loose touch and slipped over and hooked it in. You've seen them not go in. And then the last one was a long busting run that went forward. I just think these sort of things will balance out over the course of a season. He's had a lot of chances like these. A lot of chances in games, really, in a lot of games. I'm still not convinced about him being the guy for the same reason we've just discussed, really. But it's even more sort of striking his involvement in open play is just almost.
I mean, if you look at his league goals, he scored against Leeds, Forest, Burnley, Everton, Leeds again, and Sunderland. I mean, if you're being generous, you could say that Arsenal had problems against these teams.
Yeah, that's part of the narrative, isn't it? Like, this is what you were saying for.
They needed someone to kind of put those teams away.
Games,
But it's an expensive.
Well, someone who enjoys playing against teams like that. I mean, that's his background, isn't it? Playing
against the weaker teams.
Championship.
Yeah.
No. I
mean, I think it's a fair point.
Who have a more rugged approach to life.
Potentially, in terms of what his past career, in terms of also how those games pan out, finishing the games like that. I know you're saying it's easy to come off the bench when the game's done and stuff.
I'm not saying it's
easy. It's still only 1-0 against Sunderland. He's come on and scored 2 goals, and we're all going comfortable 3-0 win for Arsenal at home against Sunderland. As Tom says, like a lot of the last season, they might have drawn that 1-1 and be going, "This is Arsenal's Achilles heel. They can't get over the line," etc., etc.
It's just a take to say that you finally go out and sign a number 9, and you can be content with the fact that he's going to be the flat track bully who scores in the games that you feel like you should win anyway, and maybe not be the guy that actually takes them.
But then is this not the point of Arsenal's squad? As we say, we talked about this a lot, that maybe like team for team, starting 11, other teams can match them, but it's their squad. And so maybe you have Havertz play the leading man in the big games against Tottenham or
it
other
might work
teams.
out that way. I'm just saying it's totally like... It's just a nonsense if you're saying that was like by design.
It might have been. You never know.
I think there will be, if Arsenal win the title, I think there's an academic paper to be written on how they won the title because of Yokerus.
There you go. Well, Alyson,
do you know what? Academic paper
do you know what Alyson sold? I'll have 1,000 words for if Arsenal win the title and why it was all down to Victor Yokerus. Arsenal fans, get in touch with me with your thoughts on your new striker. tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. Aston Villa in third could only draw with Bournemouth. Slightly thanks to, in fact, completely thanks to some of the worst defending I've seen in the Premier League in a long time from Luca Digne. Gregor, I don't think I've ever said this phrase on this podcast because I really don't want to. No one ever likes it. But this was the first time I've ever watched a Premier League game and gone, I could have done better than that. Like, genuinely outrageous. Like, if you've got any defence from the left-backs union, explain it to me. How does he kind of be tracking side on, just get span inside, watch the player go past him, and then throw his arms up in the air when he scores?
Yeah, there's not much defence. I mean... Like, it's all about your angles, right? So he's got to...
I know, that's what I'm saying. Explain it to me. Like, how's this happened?
He's either got his angles drastically wrong or he felt that someone was going to be covering on his inside. Like, maybe that was a plan before the game. Maybe that was like, as I say, a midfielder shuffles across or whatever. But it just obviously looked like when he turned round and realised there was no one there, that's what his hands went up for. Like, well, I thought there shouldn't be someone covering there. It was awful, yeah. It was really embarrassing. But, like... You can actually get your angles just like fractionally wrong in that way and be embarrassed like that.
But I think it would have almost been better if he'd like span and fell over or something. You know what I mean? Like he just kind of lollops round. It was like a lorry turning. It was absolutely shocking. I'm not having it. Anyway, the other thing to mention from this game, a great performance again from Alex Scott in Bournemouth's midfield. And I wanted to just bring in Everton's win at Fulham because in the game today for the Times, both writers at these two games talking about players like Scott, James Garner, Dewsbury-Hall, some of these players in midfield who are in the like backup camp to go to the World Cup. Gregor, you're shaking your head already before I even asked the question. Not having any of the three of them on the plane?
No.
No?
No, I really like, in particular, Alex Scott. And Dewsbury-Hall's been brilliant. Absolutely outstanding. Great signing. But I think it's too late for them. And particularly, I would add because of Kobe Mainoo's re-emergence. So, I think...
Ooh, sounds awfully like big club bias there, Gregor.
Well, he's also played and he's also been there and done it. Like, he has the caps, he's been at a major tournament and he's playing really well. So I don't think it's a big club bias. I think Alex Scott could be at that level one day.
He's obviously in Tuchel's thinking, isn't he? Because he's picked him already. He
didn't play though, did he?
Yeah.
Mainoo's more the profile, isn't he, as well, that England are lacking. Like, if I think about those kind of players you mentioned, he's more the one in kind of the base where you might think there's more of a vacancy than the further forward.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting thing. We're heading towards this World Cup. We've kind of got this Tuchel situation where we're like, oh, well, Anderson and Rice locked in, blah, blah, blah. But there's a whole squad to fill. But what about you, Tom? Do you think any of those players could break in behind Kobe Mainoo if we're saying Mainoo's the next one?
I don't think so. I sort of agree with Gregor. I think it feels too late, I mean, all across the squad, I think the idea that anyone now getting in who hasn't already sort of made significant contribution on the Tuchel. I don't see Tuchel as the kind of coach who is going to think, okay, you played to a couple of months of good football and you go straight in. I think he wants people who are really embedded in the kind of the culture and the system, and I don't see him.
Mainoo hasn't played any football, for goodness sake.
Although it looks like he's going to play
it, yeah.
now 16 games, all 90 minutes, all the way to the end of the season.
Make up for it.
I was discussing this with Ian Whittle before he wrote his piece on the Times website this weekend about Mainoo. He's going to go to the World Cup, if he goes, as like the perfect level of fitness, isn't he? He's going to have played like half an English football season, played every minute, as their team charges towards the top of the table. Like, it's going to be the perfect level of fitness of any player at this World Cup. Anyway, we'll talk about
sole responsibility for pressing.
Exactly.
In the US.
In the last 20 minutes. In the last 20 minutes off the bench.
And any Bournemouth player won't be in that space because they work so hard. All Bournemouth players will probably be exhausted by the time of the World Cup. As
I always say, listeners, get in touch with me if you disagree with any of the points the guys have made. As I say, a big win for Everton at Fulham. We're going to talk about Kobbie Mainoo and Manchester United after the break. Just before the break, speaking of England, it was great to see Cole Palmer back in the goals. Another hat-trick for him. I've got to say, though, I think as much as he scored a hat-trick, 2 of them penalties, the best thing he did was juggling the ball off the pitch in his big oversized coat in the rain. He just looked like a lad going down to play a knockabout game with his pals.
Complete the full width of the pitch, though.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Yeah.
Because I think he could have.
Yeah, definitely. Have you ever seen, there's an amazing video on England football team's social media account of Phil Foden doing it all the way from the training room to the pitch. And they do it on they're like filming him and they're going, go on, Phil, do it all the way. And the players are walking past him and they're like, the cameraman's like, do you reckon he can do it? And Foden's just like...
They know what they're doing, the players there, though. Like, the idea is that they're sort of, just having fun in their own little world, but they know that the cameras are on them, don't they?
Of course.
They know it's going to be clipped up.
All content.
Performers all the time, and Cole Palmer is definitely one of them, so great to see him back on the pitch doing what he does best. Loads more still to talk about in part 2. We're going to mention Brighton, so let's talk briefly about James Milner. He didn't play at the weekend, but he is closing in on Gareth Barry's Premier League appearance record. So a quiz question to take us into the break. How many teammates has Milner had in his career? Find out after the break. Welcome back to The Game, football podcast from The Times and Sunday Times. I'm Tom Clarke and I've got Alyson Rudd, Gregor Robertson and Tom Allnutt with me. You didn't even get anywhere near the correct answer to this,
quite
did you?
Close.
Well, you two had a guess and then Tom said he didn't care, so we ended up with the correct answer being 242. That's how many teammates.
To be fair, I was being ridiculed for my answer, so I was...
Well, you
backed me into a corner.
You went into your shell a bit when producer Neil told you off for your bad maths. That's what it was.
Yeah, that's true. I got defensive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, full 242 for the rest of the show, and here they are. No, I'm joking. But speaking of James Milner, listeners, make sure you go and read Paul Joyce's excellent piece on the Times website. We published it on Friday, speaking to those who know Milner best as he heads towards this record of Gareth Barry's. It includes exclusive insights from Jurgen Klopp, who had this to say, just reading this quote. He said, nothing, absolutely nothing would have happened at Liverpool in my time without James Milner. That is 100% true. Nothing. It was an honour that I covered a few yards with Milner on his journey. I mean it. The honour was mine. I don't think the record will happen again. He is the last dinosaur to do that. Some brilliant, brilliant insights from all the people that have known Milner throughout his career. Go and check it out on the Times website. Now, as I say, Milner's Brighton side losing 1-0 against Crystal Palace in the weirdest derby in football. Tom Allnutt, you were there. A strange game, this one. Slightly came to life in the second half and a really important win for Crystal Palace. We're going to talk about Brighton in a minute, but a big win for Palace getting this over the line.
Yeah, it was a good game. As someone who I don't know if I've covered the M23 derby before.
Yeah.
But
A23 derby.
Is it A23?
Because the M23 doesn't actually connect them.
Oh, right.
Oh, right.
There's a seasoned pro in terms of football's weirdest derby.
So it's not a mistake. It's just because I wrote M23.
People call it the M23.
That's fine. I don't
They
need to be
shouldn't
right.
call
It's
it
fine.
the
Okay.
M23.
Yeah.
Alyson, you could be at times like reader and write in and go, excuse me, actually, Tom, you've got this wrong. Although technically you've just done it on this podcast. Anyway, Tom, the football match.
It was a good match. I felt like the atmosphere was good. It started well. There wasn't much of a pattern to it, like a lot of derbies. But it was high stakes, wasn't it? In a weird sort of way, because both of these teams are sort of hovering, like somewhere between 8 and 10 points above the relegation zone. Probably nobody thinks they're actually going to go in the bottom 3, but it's that kind of situation where both are looking to just put some extra distance. But more than that, both teams came in, with, I think it was 1 win in 12 for Brighton now, and Palace was something like 9 without a win. And it really felt basically that whoever won the match was going to feel kind of revitalised and unified, and whoever lost the game was going to be sort of booing the manager and feeling like needed major surgery. And that was sort of what happened at the end, because, suddenly Hurzeler was, there were chants you're getting sacked in the morning from the Brighton fans. In the last kind of 10 minutes, they were saying you don't know what you're doing. When he walked on the pitch, he was being booed. When he walked off the pitch, he was being booed. When Alyson said that wherever I go, there are boos because I cover Spurs regularly. And after the match, I was saying I felt like I could rewrite that story.
Yeah.
This is the language really just came to me perfectly.
Yeah,
Because I've written this so many times.
Okay, then
covering
again,
Spurs.
synonyms for booing. Go on. Yeah. How many have you got?
Well, that's all. But you got taunts,
Jeers.
Yeah. In the firing line.
Heckles.
Heckles.
Bit old school. But we were chatting about this after the game, wasn't it, Tom? And you were like, the Tom Allnutt Boo-ometer must be quite a powerful tool when it comes to match reporting.
Yeah.
You've seen it so much at Tottenham in the last
rucksack.
Yeah, he gets it out. Like the kind of the ones that measure sound in a stadium. Tom plonks it on the desk next to his laptop and goes, "Oh, that's pretty impressive, actually." Brighton
you definitely get extra points for booing before the final whistle. Spurs fans have booed after about 12 minutes in a game this season.
Yeah.
That's really the
So
extreme.
Brighton's small fry, actually, is what you're saying. Booing at full time after losing to Palace.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Should they be booing?
Yeah, that's the real question.
I mean, I think if you look where Brighton are in the league, they're 13th.
14th. They're 14th, 31 points, so 8 above West Ham. Obviously in the 18th, so in the relegation place.
And I think it's one of those where you look from the outside and you think, well, they're not in danger of getting relegation. They finished 8th last season under Hurzeler. It's a bad run, but ultimately they're sort of at the lower end of the bracket you would probably expect Brighton to be in. That said, they're not creating chances. They're not scoring goals particularly. They are struggling against teams you'd expect them to beat. They've only beaten Burnley at home in the last about 3 or 4 months. I tend to think sometimes we sort of think these mid-table teams should just sort of grin and bear it. But actually, when you're watching, underwhelming performances and the results are bad and you're going towards the relegation zone, okay, booing is booing. But I can see why Brighton fans are unhappy, and there really wasn't much in this game for them. Palace scored 61st minute, Sarr scored, and the last half an hour, I can't really remember a chance.
There was that chance, I forget who was clean through, but
Mitoma
Henderson made
through.
a decent save.
Yeah, and Glasner was generous enough after the match to kind of say it was one of those games, small margins, and it went our way. But I think Palace with a better side. I just think Brighton have lost a bit of edge in the final third. They've still got good players in midfield. They build the play nicely, but who is actually going to kind of put the ball in the net, create that chance? Mitoma is not the player he was a couple of seasons ago before the injury. They're relying on Ruta, Welbeck, a bit in and out. I just think you look at their team and you compare it to the other sides in that kind of area of the table and the attacking resources they have. I think Brighton are looking a bit short at the moment. And I like Hurzeler. He has that kind of bravado about him, that self-belief. And in the press conference afterwards, he really came out firing and he's only 32 and he said it was the hardest moment of his coaching career so far. And, it's obviously been a fairly short coaching career. But still, I like him. I think he's got something. But the fans, this has been there for a while. I think we said, didn't we, about a month or so ago, that the fans aren't quite as invested in Hurzeler, I don't think, as they were in Dewsbury, for example.
Is this a case of the slightly modern, spoilt football fan? And I'm not just talking about Brighton fans here. This applies to a lot. But you talked about them finishing 8th last season. Brighton are generally often get the catchphrase on this podcast of, "Oh, well done, Brighton." They've done so well. Can they not have a season where they finish 14th or 13th? Is that not allowed anymore? Can you have that? And Hurzeler then goes again, and they maybe sign a better attacking player.
Well, it's not tolerated anymore. That's the point, really. It should be allowed, but it's not tolerated.
Do you think it would be more tolerable if they were playing with more panache? They're a bit flat, aren't they? Do you feel they would have booed if it had been 3-2 and a couple of good saves that denied them an equaliser? Probably not.
No, probably not. I think the football itself is a big part of the problem. The results is the results, but I think it's also the way that they're playing at the moment. And to be fair to Brighton, they under previous managers they have played great football. They have always been a really good team to watch. You go and watch Brighton, you think this is a really clever team. Like the way they play, the way they pass. They're always out thinking their opponents. This one look a bit flat. I agree with that. It's a good word.
Part of it, Johnny wrote the piece at the weekend saying Arne Slot's biggest problem is he's not Jurgen Klopp. Part of it is that Hurzeler's not Dewsbury. Like he was, the football was thrilling stuff. And I've said it many times, he actually won more points in his first 50 games than Dewsbury, but that didn't matter for the fans. I also think there's something about the way that Brighton spent that 200 million quid a couple of summers ago.
Yeah.
Like I don't think actually, I think Brighton have been lauded rightfully for years and years and years. I don't think many of them have been hits. And I think there'll be some that have been that may still develop into real play. I think like Minta is a great player, but he's keeping him fit and on the pitch and sort of productive has been a bit of a challenge. Ruter, I'm not sure. Like Weaver, Grood has just gone on loan. Kadioglu I like, but he obviously had a big injury for the first season. Like that's not been a great success. They had so much cash, and they had to spend it because of the 3-year rolling cycle. And I'm not sure they've spent it that well.
But it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to keep recycling a team. Like we know we've spoken about how brilliant Brighton have been for the last 10 years. But how do you keep on finding the next Caicedo, the next McAllister? Eventually, like those percentages for signings, which are, you sign one good signing in 5 or whatever, that eventually does hit you, even if you're Brighton and you've got good scouting. And also, like the broader point here is that Brighton used to be the only club who sort of did this 10 years ago. Exactly. But now Palace are good at scouting, Brentford are good at scouting, Bournemouth are good at scouting. So all those kind of like, mid-table progressive teams are now also just as clever as Brighton are. They're fishing in the same market. They also have money to spend.
Chelsea are blowing most of them out the market.
Even the big teams now, even the big teams are looking at teenagers, like Brighton used to from South America. So that market is so much harder now to kind of stand out in. I think that's also maybe part of the problem.
Is it a bit mean to say, because it's quite tough and there's quite a few, more than you'd like at one time, players playing slightly below par or not fulfilling what they promised to give us, maybe at the end of last season, the start of this season, that Hurzeler doesn't have the breadth of experience because he is only 32? Maybe it's fun when you're 32 to come into a team that's been in Europe and breaking records and playing fun football, but when it gets serious, what's he got? What really has he got to draw upon to steady the ship? I don't know. I'm just asking the question whether there was a lot made of the fact, oh my God, he's 31 when he was appointed, but maybe that is too young if things are difficult.
But lots of you have said in press conferences and interviews and stuff, he comes across well to answer that challenge, that
Spiky.
idea. Yeah.
But
not particularly to us.
Is it?
But I can see him being pretty spiky, and like there was no, in those early sort of weeks and months of his time at Brighton, there was like, that was the whole narrative in the conversation. How he's young and younger than some of his players, like a lot younger than James Milner. But there was no question about him kind of like having the authority and the sort of command of the room and stuff. I think it maybe even goes a little bit further. I think he's a bit spiky, maybe rubs a few people up the wrong way. But I think he inherited St. Pauli when they were in a relegation battle and pulled them clear. Like he has, Alyson's right. He's young and he's not been manager for long, but he has had some experience of like.
I think he's got big club energy, Hurzeler, actually. Like I do. Like I know he's 32, but if you forgot about that, he has a certain presence about him. And he has that sort of Bayern Munich thing where he's like, I came through Bayern, like I know what it's like to be a big club, and he projects that, I don't see the age thing.
But is he likeable?
But people say sometimes, you talk to people around Brighton, they say maybe he's a little bit heavy, a bit serious, maybe that's that thing where, when you're inexperienced, you slightly kind of go too hard on certain things, and maybe as you get older, you learn to be a bit more relaxed and to give a bit more of a lighter touch to the players. And in this kind of situation, I think his instinct will be to double down on the work and to do more video analysis when actually sometimes maybe to step back.
Very interesting. Yeah, exactly. Brighton fans, get in touch with me. Alyson, and the other dugout, though, Oliver Glasner, your pal, your pastry pal, proving you right with your Sunday Times column. You went before this game.
Yes, I did.
And said all the fools out there doubting Ollie Glasner. And it's a big call because he was on a stinking run. Absolutely stinking run. But he proved you right with this win. And your point being, don't discount him out for any of the big jobs that might be going this summer.
I've just been surprised that he is starting to be written. He was, after the FA Cup win, it was like Oliver Glasner, superhuman, amazing, what a coach, fantastic. The narrative was brilliant. There he was with a squad that cost a fraction of what Man United's squad cost, but he was playing 3-4-3 and making them a delight to watch, and Ruben Amorim was doing similar with the much more expensive squad, and the 3-4-3 it didn't suit them. And you kind of think, well, who's the cleverer coach here? Who should be at a big club? And I think he was even linked for that reason to Old Trafford. But because of what's unfolded, demotion to the Conference League, the selling of Eze and Guille, and him saying the squad have been abandoned by the hierarchy, and announcing that he will not be renewing his contract come the summer, that everyone's flipped and said, well, well, he won't get a good job now. Oh, everyone will be scared of Oliver Glasner. Oh, he's a bit difficult. Fell out with hierarchies before. I think that's just easy to say without really analysing it. He's not really fallen out with hierarchies. What he's done is been passionate about giving the best possible platform to the squad that he's got. And when he delivers trophies that these, in a succession of clubs, Wolfsburg, Frankfurt, Crystal Palace, who do not traditionally win silverware, when he gets it for them, he expects to get something back. He gets some financial backing, some support, some idea of expansion, of building upon glory. And I don't think that's a bad thing. If I was appointing a manager and I was a board member at a big club, I would like a manager with those values. And so I still, and actually the fact that he's probably going to almost certainly avoid getting into a relegation battle with all the things I've just listed. And they've, Steve Parish, I don't agree with a lot of what he's done, but he's not a fool. He knows a good manager when he sees one. And that the reason they've kept Glasner and they haven't fallen out over that outburst is because he knows of all the options open to Crystal Palace now, the best option is you keep Glasner in situ because he will stop them getting into a relegation battle. And, they usually finish 12th. They're probably going to finish 12th. It's fine.
He's a thoroughly nice bloke. Like, when you're in the room with him, you realise, as someone who covers Palace at a distance mostly, like, you sort of get this thing about Glasner, he's ultra ambitious, he's difficult, he's being, arrogant, and we've had for the last 2 or 3 months. You get in the room with him in a press conference, you think, this guy's really nice. He's really sweet, like, lovely sort of manner about him. And you think, like, he was talking about doing Taco Tuesday with the players this week, and playing, like, games, where they're playing against the kids. And I was like, this guy's not difficult. Like, he's a lovely bloke. Like,
spot the guy with a couple of kids in the press conference. Tom's like, Taco Tuesday, can we come?
I think it's fine to be ambitious. It's just like, and also, like, the best managers are. Look at all the best managers around Europe. They're all difficult. They all demand things. They want stuff from the board. And in a way, I'm not sure that shows he's not a big club manager. I think it probably shows he is.
Another managerial situation I wanted to bring in is Eddie Howe at Newcastle, and it's time for the catchphrase of the season. Well done, Keith Andrews and Brentford, another amazing win. But it's Howe and Newcastle that became the story of this game. Really fascinating scenario is, I think, playing out at Newcastle this season with Eddie Howe and this bizarre season they're having, doing okay in the Champions League, better than they did last time. But he's under pressure with fans booing him, questioning whether he's right for the job. Some quotes coming out of his press conference today, just before we came on to record this show, saying, "There's no doubt in my mind that I'm the right man. That's why I'm sat here. If there was any doubt, then I wouldn't be because the club's the most important thing. I'd never put myself before the club. As long as I feel that in my heart and in my spirit, then my desire and my motivation levels are as high as they've ever been. I'll fight every day to my maximum for this club." When managers are using the word fight,
Yes.
It's never a great sign, is it, Alyson? You've covered millions of press conferences in your time. The tone of that is kind of embattled, and that's not quite what you want when you're managing a big club like Newcastle.
The problem is, it's been like that all season. The blips have been the good news. They started out with this inability to win away from home and looking really inept away from home. And then when the home form, which is always what's buoyed the club, is because it's got a great atmosphere, St James's Park, when that's not going well as well, and you've got the fans turning. It's a progression from how the season started, and so it all began with the Isak drama, and that was not anything to do with Eddie Howe. It really wasn't. But he's one of those managers who always. Maybe he's just not political enough. He takes it all on him.
Yeah.
He takes everything on him. And another manager might have said, how am I supposed to integrate 2 new strikers when I didn't know when I was going to get them? And they weren't fitting the model anyway, and they were all a bit last minute. I'm doing my best. But he makes it all about him. And he looks now like a manager who's way down. That doesn't exude the right energy for the squad at all. But I am slightly surprised that the fans are turning. It's a theme of the show, isn't it?
Yeah,
the
but that's what I mean. We talked about Brighton in 14th, and I said the question: can Brighton not finish 14th, and that be okay? Newcastle in 12th. Yes, they've still got the Champions League and Carabao, but Newcastle probably can't finish 12th, can they? And Eddie Howe stays in a job. What do we think?
It'd be touch and go. I think he could if they were if they had a successful season in the Champions League and like you panned out, and as Alyson sort of outlined there, you looked at the context, and like I've spent a lot of the season saying, you know, there's this whole idea that, you know, they're not equipped to go in all the competitions. I kind of feel like their squad should be on paper. Like when you think that they spent the money on Alanga and Woltmada on Vissa, like, but they've not delivered.
Yeah.
Not really. Like Woltmada scored goals when he first got in the team, but he actually...
Well, Martin Hardy wrote this piece, didn't he, before this game, talking about spending all these hundreds of millions of pounds on a load of forwards that just aren't delivering.
Alanga looked like a great fit for them. I mean, he's that speed and dynamism and direct sort of energy that, like, that's what Newcastle are. You think that fits well, but it's not really happened for them. And now they've suffered a few injuries as well. They didn't have Schär, Livramento, Joelinton, even Lewis Miley's been feeling this in right back. Anthony Gordon got a hamstring. So like when that starts to build up on you as well, then you're in trouble. But I think the reason Eddie Howe's saying this is all on me now is that, like, it ultimately as a manager, it does come to a point where none of that matters. You've got to find a way to get a result, and he's not doing it.
Isn't it just sort of part of this kind of new era though as well? I mean, it feels like Man United finishing 16th last season, Spurs finishing 17th, Spurs 15th or something in the league this season, Newcastle 12th. Like all these kind of clubs that we, you know, expected to be in the top 8 before. If you combine the fact that all those middle teams are now better with the fact that any European team now has to play a lot of games, and you're basically going up against sides like Fulham and Man United this season who don't have any midweek football. In my opinion, it becomes much less common that you're going to have these, you know, big clubs in inverted commas, you know, lurking around the middle of the table like every so often. Like, that's just going to happen, isn't it?
They're 6 points behind Liverpool.
Yeah.
Like
in 12th. Yeah.
Brighton are 8 points behind Liverpool. Like it is a strange old table.
Maybe if they all finish in that middle bracket, they all swap managers. So you either get Europe, or if you don't, you all swap managers. So we could have Glasner to Newcastle, Howe to Tottenham, Frank to Palace.
Random draw.
Yeah, that'd be all right. I reckon that could work.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why that couldn't work. But yeah, Newcastle fans, do get in touch with me, tom.clarke@thetimes.co.uk. Tom, you mentioned those two teams there, Manchester United and Tottenham, and the strange seasons they had last season. Tottenham having a difficult season this season, but Manchester United, Gregor, in 4th, 6 points behind Manchester City. A couple of weeks ago you said, I think this is a bit crazy, but Man United might finish 2nd. Doesn't look crazy anymore. A 4th win for Michael Carrick. The same formation, very similar team, 2-0 at home at Old Trafford. This is the dream for Manchester United fans that they've been missing for so long.
Yeah, I mean, like I watched this game and they just look like a team that are enjoying themselves again. It really is as simple as that.
I would argue it's the biggest contrast mid-season I've ever seen at a club in terms of the players. The difference in the players.
As in after a managerial change?
Yeah.
I mean,
before and after.
I suppose the Solskjaer would be the main contender.
I think it's even greater than that. It's palpable.
There is a point as well, Gregor. I mentioned it there. You know, same formation, all the players in the right places. I'm not going. We can't talk about Ruben Amorim again because we always end up doing it. But for Michael Carrick, to that joy, there's also a simplicity to this as well, isn't there?
There is that was clear from the start. I mean, look, you can overplay that a bit too. I mean, like Luke Shaw's playing like a left winger, so there's a lot of times where there's still a balancing off. Like Diego Dallo will tuck in, or if he goes wide, Luke Shaw will tuck in, or like they've got ways of balancing off and making sure they've always got protection at the back. And Lisandro Martinez having him fit as well, like steps back in and he can play those diags that really like stretch the play. But the main thing for me is just seeing Bruno Fernandes in the number 10, someone like Kobe Mainoo, and actually Casemiro now too.
Casemiro's
who
been amazing.
Step forward and link with them, or just take that one extra touch or open up the body and play that ball into his feet, into those little pockets of space. And having players like Cunha and Mbeumo ready to sort of react from that, just transform the team. Like they look dangerous now when they have the ball in those sort of middle areas of the pitch. And like also, you know, Cunha and Ahmad when they're running at players as well are a real threat. So yeah, all of a sudden, like you can see, you look at it and you think it wouldn't take much for it to, like if Harry Maguire was injured again, or Martinez was, or maybe even Shaw, or like maybe even one of the midfielders. But this team in its place right now, yeah, I stand by it. They could still easily finish 2nd.
I mean, it's good coaching as well. I think it's easy to kind of sort of say, oh, look, they're just kind of enjoying themselves, and the Amrim factor is the main thing here. He's gone. Everyone's just sort of had a weight lifted off them. Carrick's just doing the obvious thing that anyone could do. But I mean, remember Fletcher played, 4 at the back, and they drew away at Burnley and lost at Brighton. So I mean, it wasn't just the change. That was it. I think Carrick's doing some good work. I mean, the set piece goal was really well worked. Like you can see the players they know what they're doing suddenly. It's not just a kind of like a go and have fun, guys.
No,
there is a plan there, and I think Carrick's doing a really good job.
Yeah, man in the other dugout though, Thomas Frank, another difficult game for him, made more difficult from Cristiano Romero's red card early on. It's just nothing can come right for him, can it, Tom, in terms of the performances this season? And also Alyson. Tom wasn't even there for this one, and it still didn't go that well for them. But
Alyson wasn't there, so
that's true. That's true. That's where I got it wrong with the match list. Newcastle and Arsenal at home, then Fulham away, Palace home, Liverpool away. Where are we at with Thomas Frank? Do we think we carry on until they really are in a relegation battle? Because it's not far away now.
I think there are two things that will put Frank into the red zone, as it were, as opposed to the orange zone. I think one is the toxicity of the fans, which we have seen, and I think
2 home games we'll see it again. 2
home games this week. We'll see how that plays out. And I think the other thing is the relegation zone getting closer. I think those are the two things that could push him over the edge before the summer. I think this was always going to be a difficult run for Spurs, City, United, Newcastle, Arsenal. They were 9 points above the bottom 3. Probably nobody thought that gap was going to get bigger during this period. But 6 points after West Ham have won suddenly feels a lot smaller, right? And Romero's not helping. That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, he's banned for, I think, is it 4 games? And in a way, maybe the team is kind of better off without that noise at the moment, without that distraction, because it's one thing to kind of call out the board.
He's not banned from tweeting, though.
No.
Instagram, actually. But
Yeah.
It's one thing to kind of call out the board off the pitch, but, the performances from him this season have been really up and down. He scored some really important goals, but...
And he's your captain as well. He's not just the most mouthy on Instagram, he's also the captain.
Yeah, it's a problem. And it's a problem for Frank because, he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't, isn't he? His authority is undermined with every match that Romero continues to play as captain. But equally, if you strips Romero of the captaincy right now, then you're losing, the backing that you possibly have of one of your best players. And Romero is really respected in the Tottenham dressing room. That's a big problem. The players are behind him, and I think it would be a huge risk. Essentially, Romero is more important to Tottenham right now than Frank, in a way. He's more powerful than Frank.
Right.
And that's the problem I think that Frank has with it.
Really interesting. As you say, Tottenham in 15th, 29 points. Leeds as well. They're another reason as well. I'm sure Tottenham fans wouldn't have said after 25 games we'll have the same number of points as Leeds United near the bottom. With all the respect to Leeds, because they've been fantastic of late. A big win against Nottingham Forest, Gregor, on Friday night. You've been saying for a while, Sean Dyche, Nottingham Forest, no worries. No worries at all. They're only 3 points ahead of West Ham now after West Ham beat Burnley. Little bit nervy. They were really bad, weren't they?
Yeah. No, it is a bit of a worry now. I mean, I think Forest are another team where if there's a few parts of the areas of the pitch where there's kind of a real drop off, and Murillo's injured, Morata steps in, and he looks like a doorman or something. He can't turn round quick enough for the Premier League. Zach Abbott's getting thrown in at right back, and he's young, and it's like he's a good defender, but there's a drop off again from Nico Williams or Aina. Aina was playing on the left in this game. But even more than that, they're not really kind of linking up in the way that you've seen Forest at their best, and actually have done under Dyche earlier in the season, going forward as well. So, part of it was the goals, but it's the goals were terrible from Forest's point of view. One long ball, great long ball by Ilya Gruev, and for Bogle for his run, but he just ran across the whole defence and no one tracked him. Good finish. And then just a simple, Calvert-Lewin's was a simple cross into the box as well. Yeah, they're in trouble now.
Yeah.
The reason they're really in trouble is because West Ham.
Yeah, three wins in 4, and that only defeat was the comeback against by Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. I mean, it would probably sum up this crazy season, wouldn't it, if Nuno Espirito Santo, as West Ham manager, relegated Nottingham Forest? Can you imagine that at the start of the season, if we'd said that's how the season ends, with Nuno as West Ham manager sending Sean Dyche's Nottingham Forest down? P.S. Ange Postecoglou had a crack at Nottingham Forest in the middle.
I would hate to see it, but the owner would kind of deserve it.
Yeah.
But they're going to win the Europa League and go down, I think.
Now that really would be crackers. Anyway, we'll have plenty more to discuss on Thursday's show, but we'll leave it there. Alyson Rudd, Gregor Robertson and Tom Allnutt, thank you very much for joining me. As I say, loads more midweek action in the Premier League, and we'll be discussing that on Thursday. We'll see you then.